Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cynical and welcome back to another video. Today for you guys, I'm bringing you one that I've wanted to talk about for quite some time now. A very small and minor detail to do with the data fights in Kingdom Hearts 3. It's something that has piqued my interest for a long time, and I really want to create a discussion around this to see what exactly you guys think about it. Now, when you die in a data fight and you press retry, there will be a different cutscene that plays out in comparison to the cutscene that first plays just before you're about to get into battle. This is more of a short and sweet cutscene for the purpose of retrying so that you don't waste too much time in the cutscene and can get pretty much just straight back into battle. This little cutscene plays out a little bit differently compared to the initial one. You have a close-up shot of the Seeker's face as well as Sora's face, and depending on what Seeker you're versing, Sora's facial expression will be different. Now, there are only two facial expressions here, either Sora looking a little bit angry or really angry. Now, at first, I was sort of thinking, is this a small little detail to maybe represent the feelings that Sora has towards that specific Seeker member? For example, Sora looks really pissed off when he's versing Xemnas, and this could be due to Sora's experience with Xemnas from Kingdom Hearts 2, a character that he already knows all too well. When we look at the facial expression for when Sora is versing Marluxia, it's not as pissed off as Xemnas's, and this would make sense as Sora doesn't have any recollection of his experience with Marluxia from Chain of Memories, due to obviously losing all of his memories from Chain of Memories. I decided to make a visual image here displaying all of the facial expressions lined up to each of the different Seekers to try get a better idea and to sort of explain this. The theory that I was just talking about, if it is to represent Sora's previous experience with that certain character, does line up, but in other senses, not so much. In total, the angry look as well as the very angry look are equally used 6 times between the first 12 Seekers. We'll talk about Xehanort's facial expression a little bit later, as that's entirely different to any of these. Luxord's facial expression makes sense. Sora had an experience with Luxord in Kingdom Hearts 2, so that would serve for a very angry looking facial expression. The Riku one makes sense, as this is of course one of his friends turned to the dark side, pulled from the events of Kingdom Hearts 1. Disgruntled over the fact that Riku's body is being used as a vessel. As we were talking about, the angry look for Xemnas makes sense, the angry look for Xion makes sense, as Sora is aware that, again, Xion is being used as a puppet for the organization. Young Master Xehanort's does make sense, as Sora did have experience with this guy in Dream Drop Distance, and Vanitas's does make sense too, due to the fact that Vanitas is literally taking on the visual appearance of Sora, and is literally a physical manifestation of darkness. Keeping in mind too that when we look at Sora and all of the organization members here, these are data representations of them, and I'm assuming this would probably be the most up-to-date data within the computer program, so at this point, this is a version of Sora that has already had all of the experiences even through Kingdom Hearts 3. So for Vanitas here, this would probably be a version of Sora that already knows the appearance and all of the information and lore behind Vanitas. But then when we look at the non-sort of pissed off looks, the angry look that isn't as angry as the really angry one, it kind of doesn't really align up. My theory towards Marluxia and Larxene sort of makes sense, as Sora's memories of them were wiped, but then a non-pissed off look for Ansem and Saïx, yeah, he's had experiences with these two characters, as well as Xigbar too. He's had experiences with Xigbar from Kingdom Hearts 2. I guess Terra sort of makes sense. Sora hasn't really had anything to do with Terra the whole way through up until the end events of Kingdom Hearts 3, so that facial expression could definitely represent his current feelings towards Terranort. So my theory on his facial expression representing and reflecting how he feels about that certain character sort of half makes sense and half doesn't, but I think what's interesting here is 6 different facial expressions are used for 6 Seekers, and a different facial expression is used for the other Seekers. I guess you could say that Ansem and Saïx's could be explained a little bit differently in the ways of Sora knows that Saïx is Axel's friend, meaning that maybe that could sort of reserve a bit of anger towards Saïx, and that at this point, Sora's gone head-to-head with Ansem so many times, where he's probably just not even worried. His anger for Ansem has pretty much been used already. I wouldn't really be able to explain Xigbar though. I would only assume that Sora would be extremely pissed off towards Xigbar, being that of Xehanort's right-hand man. Xehanort though is a very interesting one because Sora's facial expression is just dead. Like soulless. It looks like Sora's soul has literally left his body. It almost looks like Sora's in a trance of sorts. I think it's super suspicious how there are two different facial animations that were animated for the different Seeker fights between the first 12 Seekers, and then one special different one, especially for the Xehanort fight, and one that is just super odd. I think if there wasn't any sort of meaning behind these three different facial expressions, simply put, I think that Square would have just animated one facial expression, which probably they could have just gone with the really angry facial expression and have called it a day and been done with it. But I find it really strange that there are different ones for different characters. That to me seems like there is a meaning behind why there are different facial expressions. My theory for Xehanort, I think maybe it's to do with the fact that Xehanort has the Keyblade. I don't want to really get too conspiracy theory on this, but we do know that there is a greater importance to Sora than we currently know. Yeah, sure, he's the chosen one, and he holds the Kingdom Key, literally the Keyblade of Light. But later on down the line for the future of Kingdom Hearts, I'm sure that there will be some kind of importance explained behind the crown, behind Sora himself, and maybe Sora actually has some kind of strange direct ties to Kingdom Hearts. This whole king theme seems very strong when looking at Sora, and I say that because of the crown insignia that constantly represents Sora, the king of Kingdom Hearts. Either that, or this could just be Sora's straight up I'm about to go anime psycho look, remembering that Xehanort wanted to essentially reset all worlds so that they could begin a new imperfect equilibrium. This of course would come at the cost of sacrificing literally everything, so a blank expression that is holding nothing but true anger behind it could serve accurate for Sora's feelings right here towards Xehanort. Either way though, I've always thought that this is a little bit strange, and I do feel as if it's some kind of hidden detail that Square have intentionally animated into the data fights. So I would absolutely love to know your guys' thoughts and opinions towards this. Do you think there is a deeper meaning behind these facial expressions? Or do you think simply it's just there to be there? Also, in case you're wondering, I did test out to see if the facial expressions are randomized, and no they are not. You will always get the same facial expression when you hit that retry button for these specific different Seekers. So let me know in the comment section down below. However guys, I'm Cynical, hopefully having a fantastic day, and I'll catch you guys real soon. Peace.